This scoundrel should be sentenced to death. Today, no one can save you from me. I will finish you. Inspector Vijay Pratap Singh is sentenced to rigorous imprisonment for abuse of power, threats, and illegal extortion.
The scorching afternoon sun was directly hitting the vegetable market of the small town. Dust was flying. The shopkeepers sitting under the tin roofs were wiping their sweat and calling out, "Buy tomatoes, fresh tomatoes, green chilies are cheap." In the corner of the same market, Savitri grandma was sitting on an old mat, age about 70 years. The face was full of wrinkles, hair completely white. There was fatigue in the eyes, but courage was still alive. In front of her there were okra, bottle gourd, eggplant, potatoes, and a little coriander in the basket. There weren't many vegetables, but that was her livelihood. Sitting next to her was a 15-year-old boy, Arav, thin, dark-skinned. There was a sharpness in his eyes. He wore a faded, torn shirt in several places and pants worn at the knees. One strap of his sandal was tied with a thread. Anyone who saw him would say, "Poor boy," but those who looked into his eyes would see a strange confidence there. "Grandma, if the vegetables sell quickly today, we'll get your medicine," Arav said softly. Savitri grandma smiled. "First, let's have a full meal, son. The medicine can come later." Suddenly there was silence in the market. A police jeep was seen coming from a distance. A hefty man got out of the jeep. Big Bella, completely bald forehead. The baldness was shining. Mustache was stiff. This was Inspector Bhanu Pratap. Two constables got out behind him. Many shopkeepers in the market lowered their eyes. Some immediately started arranging their vegetable baskets. Everyone knew Inspector Bhanu Pratap came 2 or 3 times a month, didn't pay, and took whatever he wanted. He stopped directly near Savitri grandma's mat. "Oh, old lady, how are you?" "The vegetables look fresh today," he said with a laugh. Grandmother bowed her head. "Greetings, sir." The inspector picked up the okra without asking. Then he examined the tomatoes. "Pack everything. I need to take it home." Grandma's face turned pale. "Sir, money." Bhanu Pratap laughed. "Money. We provide your security. Let you sit here. Isn't that enough?" The constable started picking up the basket without saying anything. Arav's fists clenched. His throat went dry, but this time he decided not to stay silent. "Sir, it's hard-earned money. Please don't take it for free," he said in a clear voice. All eyes in the market were on him. The inspector slowly turned towards him. Anger appeared in his eyes. "What did you say?" Inspector Bhanu Pratap looked Arav up and down. Torn shirt, worn-out pants, thin body. He started to laugh. "Oh, wow. The old woman's lawyer is here too," he mocked. The people standing in the market were silent. No one had the courage to speak. Arav said in an even clearer voice this time, "Sir, you are a man of the law. The law teaches that you should not take someone's things without paying." The two soldiers began to look at each other's faces. Bhanu Pratap's face turned red. "You will teach me the law?" He stepped forward and grabbed Arav's collar. "Do you know who I am?" Arav's throat was being squeezed, but he did not lower his gaze. "I know you are a policeman. That's why I'm saying don't do wrong." Savitri Dadi got up in a panic. "Sir, he's a child. Let him go. Take whatever you want." Bhanu Pratap pushed Dadi. She stumbled and sat down on the mat. Arav couldn't bear it anymore. "Don't touch Grandma." These words became a spark. "He's talking too much." The inspector roared. "Take him to the station. He's obstructing government work." "Sir, what did I do?" Arav said. "We'll tell you at the station." The constable twisted his arm. The people in the market were watching. No one stepped forward. Savitri Dadi ran after them, crying. Please don't take him. He is innocent." Bhanu Pratap turned and said, "If you speak too much, I'll file a case against you too. Illegal possession, illegal shop, I'll put everything inside." Grandma fell silent. Tears kept flowing from her eyes. Arav was pushed into the jeep. The jeep drove off, kicking up dust. At the station, Arav was tied to a chair. The inspector sat in front of him. A lot of honesty is shown. Now I'll show you what honesty is. He slammed the stick on the table. I have told the truth, Arav said. What you are doing is wrong. Bhanu Pratap told the constable to file an FIR, Section 186 for obstructing government work and 353 for attempting to assault a government employee. But, sir, he didn't attack. The constable hesitated and said, I said write it. The inspector roared. Arav felt fear for the first time. He understood that the matter could be serious, but his face still had the same calm expression. At night, he was put in lockup. Sitting behind the iron bars, he kept looking at the ceiling. He was worried about Grandma. She would be alone. What will people say in the market? Grandma would be crying. He closed his eyes. A blurry picture from his childhood came to mind. Darkness, cold wind, a pile of garbage, and a woman's lap. But that memory was not clear. Meanwhile, preparations were being made to present him in court the next morning, and this is where the story was about to take a turn. The next morning, Arav was taken to the district court in a police jeep. He had handcuffs on his hands. Some people from the market were standing at a distance watching. Savitri Grandma was also in the crowd. She hadn't eaten anything all night. Her eyes were swollen. Grandma, don't cry, Arav said softly while getting into the jeep. I haven't done anything wrong. There was hustle and bustle outside the court. Lawyers in black coats were moving around. The tea vendor's voice was echoing, but everything was blurry for Savitri Grandma. Arav was taken to courtroom number 3. People were seated on chairs inside. Sitting on the high chair in front was District and Sessions Judge Ajay Trivedi. With a stern face and few words, his honesty was talked about throughout the district. Case number 247/23. The clerk called out, State versus Arav. Inspector Bhanu Pratap stepped forward. My lord, the accused obstructed government work, attempted to attack the police and tried to incite the crowd. The judge removed his glasses and looked at Arav, a thin boy, torn clothes, eyes not lowered. Your name? The judge asked. Arav, he said in a clear voice. Do you have a lawyer? Arav remained silent. Savitri Dadi spoke from behind. Sir, we are poor people. How can we afford a lawyer? The judge thought for a moment, then said, a public defender should be provided. The public defender formally said, My lord, my client is a minor. The charges are serious, but an investigation is needed. The judge looked at the inspector. Do you have any solid evidence that this boy attacked? Bhanu Pratap felt a bit uneasy. My lord, my witness is my constable. Any video, any independent witness? The judge asked again. No, my lord. But then a voice came from the back of the court. My lord, I want to say something. Everyone's eyes turned to Savitri Dadi. She came forward trembling. Sir, this child is innocent. He only said to pay for the vegetables. That's all. There was a stir in the court. Judge Ajay Trivedi looked at the grandmother carefully. Something changed on his face, as if an old memory suddenly came back. He asked Arav, Your parents? Arav said softly, I don't know. Grandma says she picked me up from a pile of garbage. I was crying. The entire courtroom fell silent. The judge's fingers paused on the table. How many years ago? His voice was a bit soft. About 10 years ago. I was very young then, Arav said. An unusual expression appeared in the judge's eyes because 10 years ago, his own 3-year-old son was lost at a fair, and today this boy standing in front of him. For the first time, he had a doubt. Is this just a coincidence? A deep silence fell in the courtroom for a few moments. Judge Ajay Trivedi's eyes were still fixed on Arav. He was observing him closely. His eyes, his forehead, his way of speaking, something was stirring within him. How old are you? The judge asked. 15 years, Arav replied. And when did Grandma find you? Savitri? Nah? Grandma stepped forward. Sir, it was about 12 years ago. It was nighttime. I was returning after selling vegetables. I heard crying near a pile of garbage by the roadside. When I looked, this child was wrapped in cloth and lying there. There was no one around. I waited for a long time, but no one came. Then I brought him home. The judge's breath became a bit heavy. 12 years ago. That same year, their 3-year-old son Aryan disappeared from the city's big fair. The police searched a lot. Photos were published in the newspapers, but no clue was found. The judge said something quietly to his assistant. The assistant immediately went outside. Inspector Bhanu Pratap was getting restless. He felt the case was slipping out of his hands. "My lord," he said, "this is an emotional story, but the accused has broken the law." The judge looked at him. "Inspector, the court runs on facts, not emotions, and so far you have not presented any solid evidence." Bhanu Pratap fell silent. The judge ordered, "The accused is a minor. Instead of sending him to a juvenile home, he should be temporarily placed under the supervision of a child protection officer. Additionally, there will be an independent investigation of this case." Araf breathed a sigh of relief for the first time. Just then, the judge gave another order. And one more thing. A file of a missing person case from 12 years ago should be summoned. Case number 118/. The old clerk sitting in the court looked up in surprise. He remembered that case. It was the judge's own son. Inspector Bhanu Pratap's face turned pale. If this case deepened, his vegetable-related antics could also come to light. The hearing was adjourned. In the evening, the judge was sitting alone in his chamber. An old file was open in front of him. It had a photo of his son, Aryan, a 3-year-old child, big eyes, a small mole behind the right ear. The judge's fingers trembled. He immediately called the child protection officer. "Look behind the boy's right ear. Is there any mole?" After a while, the officer returned. "Yes, sir, it is." Time seemed to stand still in the room. The judge leaned back in the chair. Eyes became moist. Could this be true? Was their lost son standing in front of them after so many years in torn clothes with a vegetable-selling grandmother? But for now, it was just a suspicion. Another step was necessary to know the truth. A DNA test. Meanwhile, Inspector Bhanu Pratap understood that the matter was no longer just about one boy. Now it had become a question of his career and perhaps his freedom. The next day, there was another hearing in court. This time, the atmosphere was different. The news had spread throughout the city that Judge Ajay Trivedi had reopened the file of an old missing person case. There was an unusual crowd in the courtroom. Lawyers, journalists, and local people all wanted to know what the case was about. Araf was presented again. This time, he was not in handcuffs. Judge Ajay Trivedi got straight to the point. A DNA test will be conducted to investigate the potential connection between the accused and the court, as per the court's order, he said in a calm but heavy voice. The entire courtroom began to whisper. Inspector Bhanu Pratap became anxious. The longer the case goes on, the greater the danger, because now the court was also conducting an independent investigation, which would include statements from many shopkeepers in the market. Savitri grandma was worried. She gently held Araf's hand. "Son, the truth will come out. Don't be afraid." Araf was silent. Inside him was a storm of emotions. Did he really have another home? Was some father searching for him? But one thing was clear. The one who raised him was his world. 3 days later, the DNA report was presented in court. There was silence in the court. The judge opened the file. They kept reading for a few seconds, then they took off their glasses. There were tears in their eyes. According to the report, a complete match was found between the DNA of the accused Arav and this court's judge Ajay Trivedi. The words hung in the air. Savitri Dadi's hand trembled. Arav stood stunned. The judge stood up from the chair. Years of strictness, restraint, the wall of law, all broke down. Aryan. The name escaped his lips. It was as if a closed door opened in Arav's mind. Some hazy memories, the lights of a fair, a strong hand that held a finger. But he stepped forward and stood next to Grandma. "My lord," his voice choked. "Even if I am your son, my grandmother is right here. She has raised me." The entire courtroom became emotional. Judge Ajay Trivedi looked toward Savitri Dada. "You have given my son a new life. I can never repay your kindness." The grandmother started crying. Sir, I just acted out of humanity, but there was still one matter left. The judge's voice became stern again. Now, an independent investigation report against Inspector Bhanu Pratap should be presented. The investigating officer stood up. My lord, 7 shopkeepers from the market have testified that the inspector has been taking goods for free for months. He has also issued threats several times. Venu Pratap's face had turned pale. Now the story was not just about the reunion of a family. Justice was about to be served. There was silence in the courtroom. All eyes were on Judge Ajay Trivedi. Now he was not just a father, he was a judge sitting on the seat of law. In a slow but firm voice he said, Inspector Bhanu Pratap, based on the testimonies presented against you, the statements of the market shopkeepers, and the preliminary investigation report, it is clear that you have abused your position. Sweat was glistening on Bhanu Pratap's forehead. His bald head was now bowed. You are charged with illegal extortion, threats, and abuse of power. You are suspended with immediate effect. Further criminal proceedings will take place in the Sessions Court. There was a stir in the courtroom. There was satisfaction in the eyes of many shopkeepers. The judge further said, as far as Araf is concerned, the court finds that the charges against him were baseless and malicious. Therefore, he is immediately acquitted with honor. Savitri Dadi took God's name. Tears were not stopping from her eyes. Arav stood quietly. He had won, but his emotions were tangled inside. The judge paused for a moment and said, and now, a personal matter. While staying within the bounds of the law, I want to say that today I have found my lost son. But I also believe that the one who raised him is his true mother. The entire courtroom stood up. Applause resounded. The judge stepped down from his chair. After years, he embraced his son. That moment was not like a film. It was real, profound, and silent. Arav also felt his father for the first time, but he immediately looked towards his grandmother. Grandma, you are not going anywhere. The 3 of us will stay together. The judge smiled and said, Yes, now no one will be alone. That day, not just a verdict came out of the court. An injustice ended, a family was united, and a message spread throughout the city. The law, though late, stands with the truth. But the story doesn't end here, because the real change was yet to begin. After the verdict, the city remained immersed in the same discussion for many days. People used to say, See, the truth doesn't hide. The atmosphere in the market had changed now. Shopkeepers were not as scared as before. No one came to take vegetables for free. Even if a police car was seen, people no longer lowered their eyes. A departmental inquiry against Inspector Bhanu Pratap proceeded swiftly. Within a few weeks, a criminal case was filed against him. The constables who had quietly supported him also changed their statements. The truth began to emerge. Meanwhile, Judge Ajay Trivedi made a significant decision. They officially accepted Adrav as their son, but on one condition, we will all live together, they said. Savitri's mother too. Savitri's grandmother hesitated at first. Sir, I am a village woman. How will I live in a big house? The judge smiled. The one who made my son a human being is the honor of my house. Within a few days, Savitri Dadi and Arav came to the judge's house. But Arav made one more thing clear. Dad, I want to continue my studies and become a lawyer when I grow up. The judge's eyes were filled with pride. Become whatever you want to be. But always remember, the law is not for the powerful. It is for the protection of the weak. Arav nodded. Months passed. Arav focused on his studies. He got admission to a good school. Now he had new clothes. There were good books, but he kept his old torn shirt carefully. He would take it out and look at it sometimes because it reminded him of where he had come from. Savitri Dadi still sometimes went to the market, but not to sell vegetables, just to meet old friends. People respectfully called her Manji. One evening, the 3 of them were sitting on the roof of the house. A light breeze was blowing. Arav looked up at the sky and said, If Grandma hadn't picked me up from the trash that night, I might not even be alive. The judge said softly, "Sometimes God sends help in the form of a human." Savitri grandma laughed. "Enough, enough, don't talk so grandly. The tea is getting cold." All three laughed. This story was not of a miracle. This story was of courage. Of a poor boy in tattered clothes who raised his voice against wrong. Of a grandmother who fulfilled a mother's duty despite not having a blood relation. And of a father who respected both law and emotion. And now people in that small town knew. No matter how suppressed the truth is, it eventually reaches the doorstep of the court. If you like this story, please like it. Share it with your friends and family so that this message reaches as many people as possible. For more such new and heart-touching stories, don't forget to subscribe. And yes, do write the name of your city or village in the comments. Let's see how far our story has reached.